and if somebody else wants to jump in, they will come. And we can start with our tradition of somebody from the group can ask an intro question that you're curious, that you want to know from everyone.
What are you grateful for today? I always like to say thanks and to give grace. I can start.
Cool.
Okay, I am grateful today because I have a home, because I have a family, because I know there is people that is having a rough time today, and today I have all my meals, and I have a ceiling, so I am very grateful about that. And I pass it to Livia.
Thanks, Juan. Thanks for bringing up the question. Today, I'm grateful for Mexico, for the time I had here, for my friend that was living with me, for my partner, for the amazing weekend I had, for all of the beautiful things that I lived in here since I'm about to go. I'm also grateful to have a place to go next and to be traveling so much in this last few months. And I'll pass to Santi.
Today I'm grateful for finding this magnific group of people that I found, I think it was about 2 months ago, and I remember my first meeting when I jumped in and you guys were deciding who wanted to be a steward and who wanted to be a contributor, and I didn't even know what I was in. And since then, I've been enjoying the growth of the community and the growth of the work of everyone. So that's what I'm thankful for. And I'll pass it to Sam.
Hello. I like a lot this question. I think that it's the question that can make you happy, actually, because usually we don't being grateful for what we have normally is I don't know how to explain that, but it's some science behind it. Instead of trying to desire things that we don't have and futures that we want but we don't have, it's better to just have a journal of the things that you are grateful, and they are more than the things that we think and take for granted, such as Juan told us. We should be all grateful because we have a ceiling. And today I'm grateful because of coffee. I have coffee. Also, I have we have been with the bars closed here for many months, a month or so, or a month and a half, and we have bars again. So it's bars. I mean, coffees in which we can go and sit and ask for a drink. That's grateful. I would like to pass it to Tonga.
Can anybody hear him?
Yeah, that was like, Tonga, your photo is there, but
I'm really sorry about the connection, guys.
No problem. I pass to YGG.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have a nice, peaceful, quiet space here. Nice workspace. I really cleaned up my room over the weekend, and I got my new PC build running Linux. So I just have this like really nice workspace now. So I'm really grateful for that. The ceiling, like's been mentioned a few times, and just a nice, dry, warm workspace where I can focus. I'm really grateful for that. And I'll pass it over to Zeptimus.
Thanks, John. I'm actually grateful because right now in my life I always have something to do, like never boring. Like like when sometimes I'm working, sometimes I'm doing sports, sometimes I'm on tech, sometimes I always have something to do, and that's amazing. And I'll pass it to Santi. Did you go? Oh yeah, and I'll pass it to Ata. That's just John.
Hello, everyone. My internet is also very bad, but I hope you're hearing me. Yeah? Okay. I'm grateful for this week because I took the decision to go back to New York, and I was really bored of my life back in my home city, stuck in my room, and I really miss New York, so knowing that I will be back makes me really excited and energized. Yeah. So, anyone that can get past it?
Maybe I can.
Pass to... Yeah.
I can try again. Yeah, can I? I don't know.
Yeah, I passed on.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm also really grateful. I feel a very good feeling in this group. It feels like we are all human. I don't know. That's it. I'm really grateful for all of you. And who can I pass to? YGG?
You went already. I'll pass to Mateo.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Grateful for so many things, but in particular right now I'm grateful because I finally got to reunite myself with my family in my hometown. You can see my background is different, that's why. And yeah, after 10 or 11 months secluded in my little apartment in Barranquilla, I came back to my hometown, and I'm really thankful for that because all of my family is really healthy and we're happy together and hope to keep being like that for a long time. So grateful for so many things, but in particular right now for that and to be part of this amazing community and working with you guys and trying to offer as much value as I can. So I'll pass it to Yes.
Thanks, Mateo. That's really beautiful to hear. Have with your family. Yeah, I guess this question made me realize that I'm not doing my gratitude journal. I haven't written since September. So yes, and I have been feeling a bit dissatisfied with myself. So this is a good reminder of maybe why. And Sam, I really appreciate your sharing and saying that because it's so true. I think it's like Eckhart Tolle says, like abundant or the feeling of abundance is the foundation for like having this in your life. So I guess, yeah, I mean, the easiest thing for me to be grateful for is just feeling like I have friends. Yeah, like the warmth, like a few people said, and being in this community, it's really cool. I don't feel like there's a screen between us. I just feel like we're hanging out and we've become more like a family. And so I feel like even if no matter what happens in the day, or I just am like, oh yeah, I get to go, and it's like the most healthy, happy working environment. So it's really nice to experience. And thanks everybody for always showing up and sharing. I don't think I think I missed Ruben. Did Ruben go yet?
No, I'm grateful for That I'm also kind of on the way of going to see my family soon, same as Mateo, in a week. So I'm glad that process is on, it's in the process. And that I kind of, what Jess also mentioned, the working environment within the Token Engineering Commons and all the people that are part of it kind of fuel intrinsic motivation, I would say, which I find very beautiful. Yeah. And did everybody go, or is there some new people? Anderson?
Tired. I'll pass to Craig. Thanks, Ruben.
Hi, yeah. I'm thankful that I have a day, quasi-free day, to catch up on all the TEC action because there's been so much of it. And thankful for time away from family and work. Two other things I'm also very thankful for. So if I'm last, I'll pass it back to Libby.
I think Dan hasn't gone yet. Did Dan go?
No, I can go. I missed the you guys. I don't know. I'm very grateful, kind of like human experience as a whole, because in the different spaces and groups, and collectives and teams, and in all different communities I'm part of, there is like a very good energy, a shared purpose about an emerging future, and that everybody's working for that from different perspectives. And that energizes me every day. So yeah, and I'm grateful to Mateo because he mentioned his family, and I just texted my mom. So gracias. So yeah.
Thanks, everyone. That's very sweet. We all got that family mom reminder. Hope everyone says hi to their moms today. And so we have quite a full agenda. It's in the chat in the Softgov channel. If everyone can jump in. So just going over quickly what we're going to go through. We're going to have a little talk about the SourceCred implementation with Mateo and Santi. I hope we can do that in like max 10 minutes or so. And then is Daithi here? He's not here. Who's going to talk about the DAO chat box? But I guess we can jump that.
Do you want me to poke him? See if he forgot?
Sure. Thank you. So if he jumps in, we'll talk about that as well. If not, we'll move forward to participatory decision making is vital, principle 3. That we'll be discussing this more in depth today in the book club because it's part of the first chapter, but also is very present for us now because we're talking a lot about decision making, and we just had this one that brought up a lot of discussion in the weekend. So we're going to go more in depth there. I'll pass to Mateo and Santi to go over SorurceCred. And if you can keep it like as short as possible, that's very appreciated, but it's very important that we go through it. So yeah, take the time you need.
Ready. Do you want to go
Mateo,
first? Or okay. So I was having a discussion with Santi previously this morning, and we are trying to set up like a little balance between what kind of data we get moving around the weights in the different sources in our SorurceCred implementation before we actually set up and deploy and start using it to compare with what we have before the next pre-hatch, let's say. So there is not really right now a current balance with what should be working right now, but I can show you guys the same what I tried to explain the last time, I think last Thursday, and maybe give you a little more context on what is going on really with the SorurceCred. So there are three main sources in our SorurceCred, of course. That is the GitHub, the Discord, and the Discord. Let me see hide the web configuration and show you. So everyone in here has their reputation, let's say, their credit allocation that is redistributed every partial time. Let's say SorurceCred in the deployment does and gather all of the data and the information every 6 hours and makes the recalculation based on the weight that we configured previously. So in this example, these are the three main guys, but all of these roles are merged into the three main platforms: Discord, Discourse, and GitHub. We can filter and such, say which one got the most likes, or what posts are having more weight in our graph, etc. So that's the equilibrium that we must find between what generates more value and what can bring more value to the whole graph, so that can be measured with the actual work that was developed in a certain aspect of time. In a certain frame of time, let's say weeks or months or whatever. So in the weights, there is a lot to be discussed. That's gonna be Santi's work, where he will try to set a middle point where the balance or the weight distribution that is happening between all of the interactions that goes through every platform is actually working. It's actually really reliable data that will let this be automated in the future. So this is the default configuration that SorurceCred provides. Mainly, it says that if you make a Discord message and there are certain reactions like a thumbs up, a heart, or whatever, you sustain more credit, more amount of value. In Discord, is the likes. If you make a post and you get a lot of likes, we're trying to let this show like you get 4x of the weight of the credits. These below are like the interactions. If A goes to reply to B, etc., who is going to get more credit? Because it's not only the owner of the post or whatever was created, but the people that interacts, because a graph is structured by nodes and edges, but the edges also allows to get more value, etc. So that's the main complexity of this system. And for ground zero, we are trying to. Santi will help me because he already does it with let me see. You can send the same graph, or no? You already show it every. What did you tell me? Every week, every 15 days, where all the praise are already in a table. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's like the most I can tell you right now. We are working on it, and expect for at least next week to bring a little more of a real example, or more a balance that we can start discussing between everyone, and decide which weights are more valuable, or if we want to create an special emoji in the Discord or whatever. I also try to contact with people from OneHive. Santi recommended me to get in contact with I'm bad with names. I forget every time. With Sandpiper made an awesome implementation for OneHive. So I'm trying to get in touch with him and ask him for help so we can make some real a real great implementation of the token engineering. But the other part is not the technological part, but what we actually do weekly, monthly, or what we decide to use this for. Because I remember Santi mentioned we are so far a little group. We are no more than 20, 30. I'm not sure how much, but there is not so much people. Whenever we grow, it's gonna be really messy. So it's gonna be this couple of weeks or maybe a month. It's going to be a really great experiment to see how this goes. So yeah, that's the big update. If you have any questions, I'm open to answer.
Just a quick mention. Obviously, there are a lot of questions. This is amazing. I can't believe what you guys have done in just like a couple weeks. Just to mention that we are working on a Discord and we're going to separate from TE and have our own TEC for the hatch. And Chris, he was on the comms call. I forgot to mention he's going to be launching the Discord for Common Stack as well. And we're going to find a way to do like a more slick onboarding and hopefully reward praise. So Mateo, at some point when we get there, I already told Chris that you're working on this, but I want to put you guys together because he's working on the back end for the TEC Discord. So that should be up within a couple of weeks and we can start playing in there before we invite people in, if that works for you.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And also, we have Craig made that list recently. He's been updating that for us, and that's really awesome. And now we have 155 contributors that are receiving impact hours. So it doesn't seem that much, but there is a lot of people involved, and I'm sure we're gonna like grow much more than that after the launch. So it's really cool that we're starting to set that up now.
And is there any feedback you guys need or that would be helpful in your documentation or what you're doing? Like, is there a specific feedback that we can help with?
Well, yeah, the idea is to try to adjust a little bit the levers so we get some result that it's a little bit closer to what we have right now from the impact hours and start from there. That should be our baseline. Share it with you guys. And from that initial baseline, decide what little changes we do to start testing and have several weeks of testing comparing what we are getting from the impact hours and what we are getting from SorurceCred. So we get familiarized how the tool works and how everything can be tweaked and get ready for the moment that we decide we want to launch it.
And did you have any more thoughts, like since you've developed this, do you have more thoughts around like where we need humans still and how we would run that and what should be automated? Or have you, since looking at it more deeply?
There's every single tool can be added. Okay, we could have different ways of adding value or measuring how we are all adding value. We could absolutely keep having the impact hours and have SorurceCred. The only thing we have to take care is that whoever is receiving praise from one side doesn't receive praise for the same thing on the other side. But there's no reason not to have more than one source of value measure. And we know SorurceCred, it's a tool that works. We got to be careful because when the community grows, there is going to be some gaming. And luckily, the guys from OneHive have already been suffering from that, and they've added some measures, which is something that we should keep an eye on and get ready. But the good thing is that you can react very quickly, and they can game on you for a few days or a couple of weeks, but after that you can put measures there and try to avoid that stuff. But again, there's other tools, and I'm sure there could be other tools or other groups may implement other stuff that we I think we always have to keep an eye on what's out there and what can be interesting to implement on our community.
And maybe also like in this terms and conditions or like the social agreement, we will have sanctions for these kind of things, right? With the Ostrom's principles. So maybe in the conditions, it's like, hey, please use the system nicely. And if you abuse it, we have measures.
Right. The first thing that the guys at OneHive did was to ban some of the accounts that were abusing from the system. So right away, the next weeks they didn't get GRED because they were banned from the graph. That's the first measure you can have. There's other measures that you can implement, like people that they were posting emojis one another. So they've implemented what they call the asymptotic measure. So if you post two emojis, the value of the second one is much lower, and you post the third one, the value of the third one is much lower. So at the end of the day, even if you put 20 emojis, it's going to be the same value that if you put one or two. So things like that, which is great because they've been suffering it because they've grown really, really fast. And because of the faucet, they had a bunch of people jumping in just to try to catch, whatever they could. And those are lessons that we've seen from them and we can implement in our system.
I would also.
Do we need a Bright ID? Oh.
I didn't.
What was that? What was that, Jess?
Do you think we should implement Bright ID anywhere?
I think Bright ID is a great tool. Definitely, it's a perfect way, much better than KYC to measure or to validate that someone is human. There's been some issues there. People like mentioning that they are joining with their kids and their family, and the father is dealing with all the kids' accounts because just to get faucet accounts. I think our community is not going to have a faucet, so that kind of behavior, it's probably not. We won't have to take care of that. The value that Bright ID brings it's great from my point of view. I don't see why we wouldn't implement it if we need to measure or to make sure that there's just one account per one physical person. But again, it's something that we all have to decide. Sam, I think you wanted to say something.
I just wanted to add that the measurements that we get from SorurceCred, it's just a way to see things, but it doesn't include everything. For example, in people who is designing, you usually don't get so much credit because their work is done behind the scenes. For example, people who develops GitHub has its own plugin inside SorurceCred, but people who is designing with Figma, they don't get it. So it's very important to understand that it doesn't get everything, and it's just one measure more. And also it's a quantitative measure, which it's very difficult to quantify the work people is doing, and because it's a very subjective thing, and we see that in the prices. From my perspective, I think that we need still to give price to people. I think that it's one of the best things that I've seen in the communities that I have been. Like, it feels really good to be prized by somebody who you respect in the community, and SorurceCred can provide us with a different point of view. But this is what it is. it is a way to quantify contributions. In one Hive, it has been played most of it because we were. I was not in the Poland team, so I am not sure what is going on there. Probably Santi knows more. But from my point of view, probably what is messing everything is that people is getting money for receiving likes. So this is what makes everything messy. If we are using SorurceCred in order to understand how is our community, we probably won't have that problem. But I'm not sure which is the idea behind it. Are we going to give cred, TEC for people who obtain grain or not? That is something I don't know.
I think those are really interesting points that we should continue in the forum discussion about it. We started like 3 weeks ago, and we can go back there. I'm sure these points are in the notes doc. Thanks, Jess, so much for taking notes. And I do agree that it's very valuable to have a mix of the praise and SorurceCred, to not abandon the praise, because I think it does fit in places that are not being held by SorurceCred. And this is an awesome discussion. I'm so sad I have to cut it, but I want to pass to Daithi to present really quickly the DAO chat box, like maybe 5 minutes. Do you think you can do it? Because we still have another point of the agenda.
Yeah, very quickly. There's nothing really to show because I'm kind of just tidying up at the moment. I've got it talking into a Telegram chat, and all my unit tests working, so all the logic and nitty-gritty parts of it are all working. But there's a document that I shared in the group. I've kind of been updating it, and I did a bit of reverse engineering on what actually gets deployed in the Gardens template. I stuck out all the functions there as well. But there's a table, importantly, at the top of it. If anybody has any ideas, that would be handy. I put a few down already to get total proposals, get the pool, and get details for a proposal. Yeah, that's it. So I don't really have anything to demo. So a very quick 5 minutes.
Is there anything you need from us? Something specific you want feedback?
Nothing really. Just if anything comes to mind to anybody, that'd be handy to have. Jot it down in that document. Yeah. Besides that, no, I have everything. I've kind of built it out as well. To be open to do Ocean, so that it should be easy to then just extend it for other protocols. But at the moment, it's working off of Aragon.
So just to clarify to everyone, and you can probably correct me and complement what I'm saying, but I think the idea of the DAO chat box is to have a point of contact for the community where people can interact with proposals, can ask questions. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what is the intention of the chat box?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. That's basically it. So if you're in one of the chat groups and the bot is activated on it, then you would type / say TEC DAO get proposals, and it will return a list of proposals, or you could check how much is staked on a proposal. There's also some interesting functions in the smart contracts. I might be able to get it to another side thing I'm going to try and do is get it to predict the conviction votes. So you would type, if you wanted to check like how much of a change a particular vote would make. So that there'd be those sort of things. That'd be the intent then. It'd be like our own API, but it'd be open source as well. So it would work with anything. At the moment, it should work with anything on the Aragon, any organization deployed to the Aragon protocol. Yeah.
Thanks, Daithi. Does anybody has a question for him?
Maybe it's not the place to discuss all the things that I want to talk with you. Maybe then we can have a quick chat, okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Okay, so we're going to move to the last point that I think it's important that we cover quickly. And I hope we continue the SorurceCred discussion in the chat too. And I'm sure perhaps we could make even another call for it, because it seems like there's a lot of momentum, a lot of things to discuss, and we can have a work session for sure. And so discuss in this call, and the format I've been thinking for the topics of the working group is for us to discuss at least one principle per call and gather a lot of data, a lot of information that we've been thinking around it, and then move it to the forum. And from there, we can continue the discussion and hopefully get a proposal from all the information that is being laid out. So I hope that soon we'll have a proposal for the boundaries and rules, and for the SorurceCred, and for all the Softgov rewards for contributions that we're having. And also now this week we had this big discussion in comms, and the points that Jess brought in, and what is the decision-making process we're having. Is it being effective? How are we going to make this transition from Discord emoji vote to conviction voting now that the platform is starting to get ready, and that we have the tests that we can already put some proposals up? And now we have the forum, so we can also use that space to start moving proposals there. And it's not only about the content of how we are adding the proposals, but what types of decision-making process we want to have going. Do we want to have some types of decisions being made only in the forum? Like perhaps some decisions don't need to be on-chain, or we want all the decisions to be on-chain? Do we want some type of advice process to go with it? So initially, we proposed to have an advice process, and this technically is still on now, since it was decided through a vote in the beginning of the cultural build, and we still didn't change that. So the advice process is basically sharing a proposal and asking the opinion and the feedback of the people that, one, are going to be affected by that proposal, and two, the people that are experts in that field of what you're proposing. So we had that going for a while, and now I feel like it is flowing, but more in a more informal way, that like a proposal goes out and we post in a forum, or we post on Discord and we have a discussion around it. But we've been having a difficult time, as it was stated in comms, to have like people really participating on something that it's going to affect them. So for example, the proposal that just passed, we had 14 votes, 15 votes, counting the block vote. So much more than 15 people were going to be impacted by this proposal. But we don't need to have like everyone voting, but it would be very interesting to have everyone feeling like they can give opinions, that they can change that if they need to. And one last thing that I'll add before opening for sharing around all of these topics is there's a very interesting quote from the first chapter of Governing the Commons that says, "I would rather address the question of how to enhance the capability of those involved to change the constraining rules of the game to lead to outcomes other than remorseless tragedies." So she's basically saying that if we have the capability to change the rules in which we are involved in, we will have we'll have freedom in that system. We won't be like jailed, constrained, and yeah, in the structure we are inside. And Dandelion voting addresses that because it gives us the capability to change hard governance constraints. And I think Sam can speak a little bit more about that. But I also want to open to hear from all of you. That was a lot of information at once, but maybe we can have a round of sharing to hear about this question. So do we want to use the forum instead of conviction voting for any types of proposals? And if so, which ones? And do we have to have an advice? Do we want to have an advice process? So I'll pass to Santi to start.
I think it's great to have a tool to vote on the rules of governance, like the Dandelion voting that we will have. I mean, most of the time when you launch a project and start moving forward, you forget that you can change the boundaries of that project. You forget, you are so focused on what's going and what's taking place that you don't realize that there's a way to work on the initial rules and make changes there. And that's something that we should always keep in mind, especially when we see that the initial, I don't want to say restrictions, but boundaries that we set it, are not helping us to grow or be more inclusive with new people, new members, new options that we may have. And that should be something that we always had to keep in mind. So it's not just the ongoing daily proposals through conviction voting, which is what's going to be happening once after launching, but also keeping in mind the rules that we can tweak here and there through Dandelion voting, and that's something that we should always be reminded.
You pass to Sam.
Hello. I think that the tool is not the important thing. I think that the decision must be taken as a community, as an informed decision, and then we will see which tool we use. That is giving a lot of interesting information, because we are going to have many ways to decide what we want. We will have on chain, we will have Dandelion, and we will have conviction voting. And conviction voting itself can be used to fund proposals, but also to signal proposals. But not all proposals should be decided there. Probably we want to discuss them on the forum first, and a simple survey in the forum is pretty good also. I don't know if the signaling feature in conviction voting is useful at all. we don't. I don't know. Maybe if you find that it's not useful, please say so, because this is something that has not been used before for this kind of community. We only have used it for common stack in order to say in order to order the priorities on Gitcoin, who to donate first, and have a list of priority grants. But it's pretty much something that is experimental. So I don't know. And as Santi said, Dandelion voting specifically is very interesting in order to change the boundaries of the community. And what we are working during this week and the next is to make that completely true in order to be able to migrate to a new house when we are finished with the one that we have. We are going to begin with an initial DAO, and the most important thing for that initial DAO is to go out from the DAO to another one that we decide. That's a hatch DAO actually. It's an egg DAO that we are going to hatch it and then move the token and the funds to somewhere else that we can decide what it is, and we will be able to repeat that process as many times as we want, which means that Dandelion voting is the way we can break the constraints and create new ones if we have to. Also, for technical updates, it's very important to have that in that way. I am going to pass it to somebody else who raises the hand or say something. Okay, YGC.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I just want to put forward this idea. I don't know if it's been discussed or if it's actually covered in Ostrom's writings, because I haven't reviewed that in a while. But I'm wondering about like incentivizing voting. So just like we're getting impact hours and praise in these systems, like if we could, I guess this is on my mind because we're reviewing the SorurceCred platform there. So I'm wondering if it's been discussed of this idea of like incentivizing voting or some way of like mobilizing everyone in the community so that we get really large numbers on votes. Does anyone have has that been discussed before, or does anyone have thoughts on that?
I think that is a really good idea because you can see that there's a lot of apathy in voting in many protocols. One of them is Maker. However, I'm a big concern on incentivizing people just to vote without getting informed and just voting just for the fact of being incentivized. So it's something that we really need to understand if it's gonna help us. And also if they're really making decisions based on information that they have consumed and not just clicking around and that's it. Yeah, that's my take.
I was also thinking like on the signaling, it's good because when you are using that represents also the amount you have, the skin you have in the game. So for example, like if you just manage to tell like someone who is like doing it for the sake of getting praise, like you can take also wrong decisions, but if you take decisions based on how you contribute in the community, then it also, like I was reading this weekend, and when you feel inside the project, then you take more decisions taking care of the project, not as much as individual. I don't know if that makes sense.
Just to add a few thoughts, maybe it's worth, it would be amazing to have kind of a data-driven approach and even develop maybe a KPI around voter turnout. I think the average in blockchain projects is like 3% or something like this. And there's a lot of research about voting psychology. So I think if anybody has bandwidth at some point to do like a bit of research around what are the best practices to encourage voter turnout. And yeah, of course, virtually it's different. And I have also had a few discussions about like incentivizing voting, and yes, it can be gamified, but maybe there's like, you could do a quiz, but then this is like so much energy around, but how, yeah, I bet there's research already existing, and maybe also like polling our community, and I think also accepting that like a certain portion is just going to hold tokens and not really be that engaged in kind of like concentric circles, but I feel like we are on the forefront of developing and innovating on figuring out a way. And yeah, I think also, as Livy has brought up in a big dialogue before, like intrinsic motivation is the most powerful. So how do we invoke, or how do we inspire people to be motivated to engage with the community? And maybe that's like a survey and finding out the answer. So it is interesting, but just not to feel like bad, and just recognize that we're on the forefront of experimenting and how do we increase engagement in virtual communities. And right now the bar is 3%, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to do better than that. But yeah, having a goal is always helpful.
I want to grab it really.
Just one final. So I'm just thinking about combining what you said, Jess, and what Zeptimus said. So now my mind is going to, instead of like tokenized incentives for voting, maybe like some sort of reputation stake, or if it was like transparent on for each member of the community, like what's the percentage of votes they've engaged in, or even if it's not like their actual vote, but have they commented on a forum post, or have they sort of touched, if it could be, yeah, like a data-driven approach. What percentage of decision-making processes is each community member getting involved in? And then that could be an example of like a non-token based incentive, because you want to show that you have skin in the game, like Septimus said, and you want to feel this sort of connection and ownership with the community. So a way of making it like transparent of how involved someone is could be like a reputation-based incentive, moving more towards the intrinsic alignment. So that's just one idea, but there might be like non-token based ways of incentivizing people to get more involved.
It's a super creative solution. And also liquid democracy and vote delegation.
I want to add something to that too, because that's kind of the purpose of the advice process and the initial idea why we thought about it, because it incentivizes people that are being affected by that proposal and people that are experts on that field to participate. So in theory, they would already have an intrinsic motivation to do so because they are being affected and because it's something they're passionate about if they are experts on it. So the idea would be like how to always keep these people in mind and have a constant flow of integrating these two groups in the proposals. So we would have some type of comfort that these decisions, even if there is not like a huge participation, that they are being taken by people that have skin in the game on them, and they're probably people that are most close to the issue that it's being discussed.
Another thing that I was thinking is that it's really, really important to have a culture around voting and not just vote whenever. So if we can, for example, establish, okay, we're going to vote during the weekends, for example. So we know already that every weekend we should be looking at all the different proposals and just creating a culture around it. I think it's really, really important, because having this, having this type of liquid democracy at all times is really, really difficult to follow. And more if you're involved with a lot of projects.
Sorry, there was a delay before. But yeah, Sam, I was going to ask from a tech perspective with conviction voting, there's maybe another thing we can play with. Can we put a delegate vote feature where like Jeff's really busy, he can delegate his votes and the staking power of his tokens to me, or something like this, and start to play with what a delegation system could look like?
Not yet. That's a good idea. Well, or I guess that we can discuss about it. The Aragon voting application already includes that, but Dandelion voting and commission voting, it's not implemented. We could copy some of it and see how it will work, but it's completely out of the scope for now and for the launch. Maybe in some months, if we see that it's a very needed thing, we can put it on commission voting. But it's something that we didn't discuss. This is the first time that we discussed this, and I would like to hear if that's. I have not much more thoughts. I think that it's better to put this idea out there and see if people is interested, and if there is enough interest over this idea on this idea over other ones, that could be cool. The other idea that it's out there that kinds of tries to solve something regarding that is quadratic conviction voting, which is allowing people who has less tokens to be more voting power just because they are individuals. I think that we will be able to discuss all of these kind of flavors in the future when we have already launched the TEC and discuss about token engineering. That's what we are going to do.
You mean quadratic?
Another idea. Go on.
Yeah, it's one of the ideas that are out there, just to do the square root of the amount of tokens that you have. So whales get much less power, but keep the money or the tokens that they have. But in order to vote in the community, they can vote with more than normal people, but not much more. That's the idea, because you are squaring, you are doing the square root of their amount of. So square root of 1 is 1, but the square root of 100 is just 10. That's the idea.
We are
Another idea. Go on.
We're on the top of the hour, and I have to jump into the book club. You guys are welcome to continue the discussion. Just please add notes so I can see what's going on after, if you do, and I'll update the forum. And whoever wants to jump in the book club can follow me, and I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys soon in the next calls. Thank you so much.
Where's the book club? Where's the book club?
It's in the DAO Book Club server.
Okay.
The address, the link to it is in the TC comments in the general chat, and also in the Softgov chat.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
David.
Thanks, everyone.
I had another question. I was wondering if it's possible to delegate voting. For example, if I say, yeah, I would like to delegate voting for tech to David, for communications to Jessica, and for governance to Juan, and so on, you know? We cannot hear you. You're mute.
I think Sam already answered that, and that it would be cool, but it still is not. We are not yet on that point.
No, we are not yet in that point. That will be really cool. that will be really cool. But we are not in that point. The delegated voting is just one address, and they did a very good job. But it's just probably it's very useful when you have one address that have in a cold wallet, and you don't want to be voting with that, but you can delegate the votes on another one. All the votes that you can do with that address, you delegate it in another one. If you had different, I think that if you had different voting apps, then you could do different delegations. So if we set up a DAO that uses this system with different voting apps, one for each topic, we could manage different delegations. That will be an idea. But this is working for normal voting in Aragon, which is going to be cool, very cool. Actually, if we do an update later of the DAO to use the disputable applications, that will be included. We still we still have to see let's say that Gardens 2 has disputable applications. But we are right now going for Gardens 1, and I don't want to mix things up.
More complicated.
Because Gardens 2 is yet in front of us, and we are going for Gardens 1, and let's discuss Gardens 1 very well, and later on next year, I don't know, maybe in 5 months, we will see. There is a lot of path to go, and we have to go it together. So
Nice.
I am going to jump to the other server. But
Chao, guys.
Chao. Hablamos.
Chao, chao.
Hablamos.